This is an exclusive presentation from Federated Media. Unholstered.
Welcome back. Here we go. It's another edition of Unholstered. My name is Kayla Blakesley. I am just one of your hosts here on Unholstered. I represent the local media side.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sophia Rosales-Scatina. I'm a captain with the Fort Wayne Police Department, and welcome back to the show Unholstered.
Sophia obviously represents the local law enforcement side. She makes this show work. And Sophia, I think that's important to point out that, yes, you make this show work. And on that note, congratulations is in order. Sophia, a big congratulations to you. I actually received the press release from a gentleman named Jeff Jones about you being recognized for exceptional service.
Yeah, so this past weekend, I was honored by the Sons of the American Revolution on their Excellence in Law Enforcement Award, namely for the show Unholstered, but also for my 29 years of law enforcement work here in the city.
You know, I talked to Jeff. I knew you were getting the award. He sent me the press release, which I didn't realize they dressed in full garb for this.
I didn't either.
I was like, whoa.
There's a few of them that did, and the rest of them are in regular
Okay,
clothes.
well, that was amazing,
Yes.
First of all. Second of all, I was chit-chatting with him, and he said, man, the more and more I dug into her career, then more and more, I realized how incredible of a person she is. And I said, yeah, I always try to stress it on Unholstered. She's an incredible police officer, but just as a person, just absolutely remarkable. And I would encourage folks who maybe don't know your whole story to go back to the beginning of the Unholstered podcast and hear about some of the trials and tribulations, let's say, that you have faced throughout your career and throughout your life, because it is pretty staggering.
Yeah, and I'll give a shout out to the Sons of the American Revolution, because for what they do a lot of community work. They do a lot of work with military, putting wreaths on military graves, unmarked graves. They kind of find out where people are buried that maybe have been in past wars to bring them honor and dignity. So they do a lot of work like that, and it is a lineage kind of membership, so you have to have lineage back to the American Revolution, but you can do that through marriage and stuff like that.
Had you heard of this organization prior to this award?
I had not, and honestly, I'm surprised I didn't, because one of the guys who actually kind of helped Jeff find me was a retired officer that I'd worked with for years. I just didn't know he was involved in that until I saw him there on Saturday.
Well, congratulations to you. It was a beautiful thing. I thought the write-up about you was great. Again, the pictures I was like, oh, wow, they're full garb.
Cool.
I loved it. It was fantastic. Well, Sophia, glad you're still a part of the show, because you've been winning lots and lots of awards. So I'm glad you're here. If you've missed any previous episodes, like the ones all about Sophia, you can download the Unholstered podcast anywhere you download a podcast. I'm so excited to get into today's topic. We've been wanting to get there. It's just the news is the news, right? And things keep popping up. But we've had a rash of vehicle thefts, not only really here within Fort Wayne, Indiana, but I know it's the popular thing to do these days among young kids. There's the whole TikTok trend right now when it comes to Kias, to steal Kias. I mean, that's really your area of expertise, or at least you brought someone in whose area of expertise it really is. So I'm anxious to get to this topic.
Yep. We're going to talk about Kias and Hyundais today, namely, but stolen vehicles in general. And I did bring on our auto theft professional from the Detective Bureau, and I'll let him introduce himself.
I'm Matt Neubauer. I'm an auto theft detective with Fort Wayne Police Department, and I've been in the department for 25 years.
I did not know there was an auto theft detective within the Fort Wayne Police Department. Are these everywhere? Are they in every department?
I don't know. It depends on the department if it's large enough to have an auto theft, but we are large enough to have an auto theft. And there's a couple of guys,
there's two of us,
two of them that do the work, and they do a lot of work. And there's a lot of things that you wouldn't think they would be doing, like salvage titles and things like that. They're the only ones that can handle those kinds of things in terms of getting that dealt with for the general public. But there's a lot of things that they do that they don't always get credit for, and people just hear stolen vehicles and they think, oh, they're just doing paperwork for stolen vehicles. I'm like, no, he gets out there, gets dirty, climbs under cars and trying to find VIN numbers and things like that. Or
what's a typical day look like for you, Matt?
Well, typically we start with any of the errors or anything that may have happened at the tow yard. Neighborhood code will tow vehicles in sometimes that don't have VIN numbers or VINs on them or identifiers. They're also not allowed to open doors to look at secondary identification numbers, so we'll go clarify those. A lot of times there are secondary numbers that manufacturers put on the vehicle that we can look at and determine what specific car that is. So we'll clear most of that up. in the morning generally, and then see what is on hold for us. If we had any vehicles recovered at that time, we'll also go check those out, print them, and collect any other evidence. For example, if a vehicle was stolen on Friday night and we recover it Monday, if we've got a receipt from McDonald's in there for Saturday afternoon, we'll need to go to McDonald's and check that video.
Does that really happen? Are people that dumb if they steal a vehicle, then they leave?
You would not believe.
Wow.
Be surprised.
Wow. Not that I'm in the business to steal vehicles, but if I was, I
Yeah.
certainly wouldn't leave
Yeah.
a paper trail around, right?
Yes, from time to time, or we'll contact the owner and say, hey, we found this, and that in the car. Was the Coke can in the center yours? And no, I don't drink Coke. So that we'll take that into evidence and we'll print that, just to kind of get a little further in the case.
So, Matt, I kind of hate, this might sound bad, but I hate that there's two of you, right? There's two detectives for auto thefts, because that tells me, I mean, you just said it, Sophia, not even every department has this position, but that tells me it's obviously a problem, right? That we've got a lot of vehicle thefts?
I wouldn't say we have had an increase since this Hyundai Kia challenge, TikTok challenge had popped off last year. We've seen an increase. And I think in general, we're always going to have people who prey on other people and steal people's stuff. Cars back in the 80s not the 80s when I came on, but 80s and early 90s when I came on, it was really easy to steal cars. Not so much now because there's so much computerized things that need to happen, and keys had to have like little codes on them that the code has to attach to the ignition to work. But back when I came on, those columns being punched with a screwdriver and you could easily start them, and we had them left and right going on. But once the technology caught up, it was a little more difficult to steal. But now we're seeing that technology is kind of has become fallible, I suppose.
How
and
so?
Now with this new TikTok challenge that the kids are doing, these Kias and Hyundais are being able to be stolen with just a flash drive or a USB cable.
Yeah, walk me through this, Matt.
So part of that is there are two really different brands of theft that are most prevalent. The higher end vehicles, Mopars, your Hellcats, things like that, have gone even further technologically, as far as keyless entry, things like that. However, the more convenient technology becomes, the easier it is to abuse it. So those vehicles would, once you break into those, you use a computer software program to tell the car that the key is there, similar to what locksmiths would use to change the code. There's another process a little below that, technology-wise. If you've got keyless entry in your car, you walk up to your car, it knows you're there, you can unlock it. Okay, that's because your key fob is always sending out a little signal, and it's a soft signal that only radiates about 10, 20 feet, but it's there constantly. So if you leave your keys right by your door, another method is to take the laptop, have a two-man team, take the laptop close to the house, see if you can get that key fob signal, and then they use almost like a radio or a walkie-talkie system to shoot that over to the person by the car, who then has their laptop or radio, and then does that make sense? The key is being transmitted to the car. Then they hop in the car.
Kind of like a radio airwave. It's being transmitted through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the car thinks the key's there. So you can start the car, and then as long as they keep that filled with gas, you could drive that anywhere in the country.
But that's just the thing, right? You couldn't ever stop that car to restart it without being near the key fob.
But you could stop that car at your chop shop and have your local keysmith or locksmith re-key or reprogram that ignition system.
Dirty.
And then
I don't know.
It
To
is.
me, that sounds really complicated and really sophisticated. But you're telling me,
But it's not.
People have figured this out, and it's really not that hard.
People
it's
figure
not
that
that
out. That's not hard. Even so, and then the third that is really prevalent in the Kia Hyundai issue is they have reverted back to a more mechanical system, like Sophia talked about in the 80s and 90s, where they do have keyless entry and things like that, but the actual guts of the ignition system are very mechanical. That physical key goes in that tumbler, and and allows you to turn it just like a door lock. And what these guys, and I don't feel like we're giving away any trade secrets at this point.
You
It's
can
all
watch
over
any video and
TikTok.
find out.
If you simply
Sadly.
rock that tumbler off the ignition system, there's a little nub under there that you can physically turn, and that starts the car. It's no different than what we had in the 80s and 90s.
So people have figured this out, and this is like the big trend on TikTok right now, right? What
It is. And
young
we're
people showing themselves.
very young juveniles have started to partake in these things, these criminal acts. And, the problem is like kids do stupid stuff all the time. As a kid, I didn't steal cars, but I did stupid things. We're just going to a level of stupidity based and then topping it with recklessness. Because now what they're doing is they're stealing these cars. We're getting behind them. We're trying to pull them over when they're taking off, and we're getting in pursuits. And these are lengthy pursuits in terms of pursuits. And these are young juveniles who have no driving experience. They just think,
Oh, wow, that young.
yeah, yeah. And just you'd be surprised. I'm not going to tell exactly the ages, but pretty young juveniles. And they're getting involved in these pursuits. And I sit on Pursuit Review. We've talked about that before. Yeah. And you watch these pursuits, and I'm just like, well, what do you do? Well, stop chasing them. Okay. But then what do you have? Then you have lawlessness all around, and people expect us to do our jobs.
And if that's your car, I'm pretty sure you want the police to go after it, right?
And then so they're very reckless. They're very they're crashing out. Thankfully, no one has been seriously hurt, but it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time before someone's seriously hurt or someone dies in these pursuits, and either by them striking someone else or causing an accident, or they themselves running in and crashing into a pole and ejecting.
But so this is, I guess when I think of car thefts, and this is maybe I blame the movies, I don't know, TV shows, what have you. I don't know. I think of car thefts like back in the 90s, like old school with a crowbar or something, or a coat
The
hanger.
burglar
yeah,
with the
exactly,
mask
something. And getting them, using those like getaway vehicles, or hey, we need to steal a car to have as a getaway vehicle. But it sounds like to me, I mean, times have definitely changed. This is more obviously thought out. But and then what? I guess what's the reason? Just to get views on TikTok? I mean, what's the logic behind this?
I think it's just to do it. Because we've had several juveniles in cars. I mean, it's not just one or two, it's 3 and 4 sometimes. Joyriding. They just take the car because they can and take it around the block and crash it out and then drop it off and go find another one. And it's happening all over the city. It's not just relegated to one area. However, my area Southeast has seen the most of it, and that's because the perpetrators live in my area. So.
And primarily the Kias, right?
Primarily Kia and Hyundai. Both of those can be stolen in the same manner.
And this is almost two different things. I mean, technically it is auto theft, but you do still have your auto shoppers, your auto theft
taking them to the chop shop on purpose, right?
Take them to the chop shop, steal them for parts, steal them to ship them overseas. Those guys go for high-end cars, very specific cars. We had a very expensive luxury SUV taken a couple of years ago from a dealership here, and we found it in a shipping container ready to go over to West Africa. The New York Port Authority found that for us. So that is still going on. This Kia Hyundai trend is really more about juvenile delinquency. It's not for the car parts. It's not for the car as a whole. It's not monetary at all. It's to joyride, and the trend is to joyride and wreck the car and film yourself doing it.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, but like you said, until someone gets seriously hurt, if not worse, killed.
And when he talks about the cars being stolen too, motorcycles are included. Harleys are a huge, huge thing that gets stolen around here a lot. We find them all the time. Sometimes we don't find them because those are very easily, hidden, I guess.
Well, and I had a very old, respected Harley mechanic in town joke with me one time. He said, son, a Harley's worth more taken apart than it is put together.
Oh, wow.
Just in aftermarket parts.
Yeah.
So then walk me through this. Let's say it's one of the situations of a young person figured out how to take a Kia, I guess. What do you do then, Matt? What is your role from there? Like, walk me through that process of how you go looking for this young person who took it, if this car is crashed somewhere. I mean, what do you do?
Well, if the car's found, I mean, obviously we go through our typical evidence collection. And like we talked about before, receipts, fingerprints, what they leave behind in the car, things like that. If someone's caught in the vehicle, during a pursuit or right after, they're arrested, and we will work up the case for court. We'll do the probable cause affidavit. We'll write a report with all the details in it and send that over to the prosecutor's office for charges to file for a warrant. If they're juveniles, the juvenile division handles that for us.
Okay.
We'll do the part of processing the vehicle because Steve and I are pretty well versed in what we can get prints off and what we can't. What types of surfaces are best, where people normally put their hands when they're driving, that sort of thing. But juvenile division would handle the actual charges with juvenile court.
What if you can't find the car and you have no idea who took it?
That does happen. I mean, we've got cars that just don't come back. That's
They're in a shipping container in New
yes,
York.
absolutely.
Could be, or in the river.
Yeah.
You're riding, maybe drive it into the river, drive it into a lake, and you wouldn't find that until maybe the water recedes. And then you say, oh, there's a plate sticking up. What is this?
Yeah.
So there's just lots of places where these cars can end up in chop shops, too, and parted out. I mean, there's so many ways. We generally can recover most things. And with the Kia and Hyundais, I will say, we are making a lot of arrests. We are actually catching these kids in these cars, but again, it's juvenile law, completely different than adult.
What are the charges
law.
for an adult?
It's the same charge, but how they're handled is completely different.
What is the charge?
It'd be possession of stolen property, and then if they're involved in a pursuit, it would be resisting law enforcement by fleeing in a vehicle, which is a felony, and as well as the stolen vehicle is a felony as well.
It's a level 6 felony theft.
Wow, I didn't know that. I guess.
Yeah. Running from the police in a vehicle is a felony.
So
running from the police physically, like on feet, is a misdemeanor.
Right. Okay. So, but
Yes.
if you're in a car,
But if you're in a car, because it's such a dangerous thing to do.
I mean, it makes sense.
People die from doing that.
Yeah. So,
including officers.
What's the penalty then? Let's say you do catch them and they are fleeing in the car. Why are you laughing at me?
Oh, penalties, yes. Let's just say it's very frustrating to be on our end when we're doing this, especially when you have repeat people, but adults and juveniles, repeat offenders, and you just want something to happen meaningful, and nothing seems to happen.
As we always say, you're just there to enforce the law. You don't make them outlaw.
And we get frustrated too. And I don't know. Things probably will end up changing. I would see in the future probably.
Well, that was going to be actually my next question. With the way technology has changed and we're seeing stupid TikTok challenges like the one we're talking about here, do you see the laws changing within the next couple of years?
I think that I would love to see our auto theft law tweaked a little bit. Certainly got some sentences I would add to it. But I think for the most part, theft covers it. I mean, it broad brush covers it well. It's not your car. You took it. Whether we get it back or not, it's the same felony. The victim's still out. The use and value of their car. It's more of a headache than I think people realize. The aftermath of dealing with your insurance company, even tow fees. I mean, some of these folks can't afford to get their car out of impound after it's found. I mean, sometimes that's a struggle. So these guys really don't realize what they're putting people through for that little 30-second clip.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, and I think it just goes just one more level of kind of our society is falling. There's just no accountability. Even when you arrest, and it just doesn't go for auto theft, it's for other things. I mean, you have repeat offenders of shoplifting, and how many times do we have to go through this before something is actually meaningful enough that it sends a message? I don't know. I hope the laws change. I mean,
Sophia,
I think
it's what you said. It's going to take someone getting killed for anything to change or be different.
Yeah, and that's my worry, because, I mean, it could be anyone. It could be your child. It could be you. It could be me. And I don't want that. I don't want anyone to die over something stupid as stealing a car.
A joyride.
Yeah. And like I said, kids are dumb. I get it. But at some point, they have to be held accountable for what they're doing, especially if it's repetitive actions that they're doing. and not being held accountable on some level.
Matt, are you naturally like a car guy? How did you even get into this area as it being your
Is
expertise?
he a car guy?
I am. I always have been since high school.
Okay.
I mean, we've actually got family history. Merkler Drive here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That was my grandfather and his brothers. Actually built race cars in the 40s and 50s here in Fort Wayne. So that's, just raised to love that stuff. And once the spot became open, it was almost one of those, I think I just got it by luck. They needed somebody who needed to help in auto theft a little bit and needed to help with pawn shops a little bit. And it was a little vague, the opening they needed in property crimes. And a lot of guys were like, no, thank you, because it just sounded like a nightmare. And I was, as soon as I heard auto theft, I'm like, I'll try that. And just by, guys retiring one after the other,
Here
I
you
got
are.
the permanent spot, and here
And
I am.
that's a lot of times how those positions open up, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as someone retires and it's...
Yeah, because people like those positions because normally people holding those are the car people or have, we have a domestic violence unit and, some maybe they have some kind of domestic issues in their lifetime.
They're passionate. The people
yeah,
are
they're passionate
about
what they
it,
do.
yeah.
Not everyone. Some people are just stuck there because there's there's no spot for them. But, some people in juvenile love kids and some people work sex crimes, are passionate about catching these creeps that prey. So I think it's just, that's why we're fortunate enough to have several areas where people can go where they can find that passion and make a difference.
So if Sophia calls in, she stumbles across one of these Kias, I don't know, let's say driven into a tree, I don't know. Do you immediately call in you, Matt, or Steve? Is that your counterpart's name,
Yes,
Steve?
yep.
Is that how that works, or does Sophia process that scene and how does that all logistically work?
So they'll take the car, they'll pry it off the phone pole or whatever, and tow it. If they believe it's been used in the commission of another crime, they'll take it to our evidence locker, or otherwise they'll take it to the impound lot, and they'll note. Technically, they will note on their report. They'll put an alert that for auto theft, and then in the morning we get all those. Like we will see. I walk in the morning.
So you walk in and bam, here you go.
I get a sheet.
Oh,
Yep, here's the
geez.
3 that were stolen last night. I've got a list of what was stolen, what was recovered.
Are you ever short for work, Matt?
No, never.
Unfortunately, right?
I
Yeah, well,
love
there's
it,
only
though.
2 of them, right? For a
Right.
city of almost 300,000, even in the county, because of those, sometimes the county things can come into the city. So you're talking 400,000 is 2 people. So it's a lot of work, potentially. And just so we can get into things into perspective, I'm the stats person. So between July and now, we've had 104 Kia and Hyundais stolen and recovered.
July of this
year.
Holy smokes.
And we've had 31 attempts to steal a Kia or a Hyundai since September 1st.
So essentially they tried to get their little computer system in there and it didn't work out?
Yeah, so that the attempt we've noted either it's got a broken window and a punched column, or and that has to have those 2 monikers to actually hit this stat. But if it doesn't have the column and just the broken windows, we don't note that it's a Kia or a Hyundai in our reporting because we don't have to. So that could be a thwarted. Someone could have walked up when they heard the broken window and they were just scared off. So the attempts could be higher and probably are. But this has gotten so bad that we've added a module to our template of a make of a vehicle, so we can add that and keep track of Kia and Hyundai specifically, because it's been such an increase for us. We need to figure out how to deal with it.
And that's just those 2 brands.
Yeah, but because they're so significant in the increase of our stolen vehicles, we decided to put the make of the vehicle in the template for our officers.
We've only got 2 minutes, and this is the question I wanted to ask from the beginning, but I was saving it for last. And that is, what can we do, the owners of these vehicles who have this
Great
keyless
question.
entry? Is there anything we can do to be proactive?
Absolutely.
Okay, what can we do?
So if you've got a higher-end Mopar, for example, or a key that is keyless entry, things like that, keep your keys away from your front door. Keep them back further in the house. If you want to be extra, you can put them in a metal-lined little lockbox or bag at night. But take them upstairs to the bedroom with you, or take them to the back of the house. Don't have them right by the front door where somebody can just grab that signal. Because remember, that signal's going out
10 to 20 feet, you said.
Absolutely.
Huh.
So just
That's any vehicle.
keep that safe. That's any
Honestly.
vehicle. That really is.
I'm rethinking my whole life right now.
Right?
And the Kias and Hyundais are all mechanical. That's a mechanical theft. So that is just a matter of it doesn't have to be impossible to break into. It's just got to be harder than the next guy's. So keep your porch lights on. Keep it parked where you can see it. I know it's convenient. Folks, we've so many cars. Yeah, I left the keys in it. Or I had an extra set of keys in the glove box. Kids are going to go through your car and looking for change and your car wash coupons and all the other stuff you can steal out of a car. Don't give them the key. Take that in the house with you. But just, if Kias and Hyundais, keep an eye on them. The club, some kind of mechanical. Remember the club from the 80s?
I do.
Great idea. They're coming back.
That is probably the only
Sexy.
thing that will save you
Really?
on a Kia or Hyundai. And we're talking from 2006 to like 2021, because that software program will allow someone to take that car. So you're gambling if you're in between that and you don't have a steering wheel block on there. The club is specific brand, but
But still,
so
if you have
any
to
of
park
those.
outside, maybe you live downtown, or what have you, and you don't really have any other defense.
They will not steal your car with the club on it. They cannot if you place it properly.
Don't they have like?
You can't just leave it on the
Aren't there
seat.
fake ones though that you can just like put up there and it looks like it?
They're like $20. You can find them on any kind of internet shopping.
Okay.
I won't name, but the big one.
Yeah.
You can find it on there. Just punch in the club
didn't
or a
realize they were that
steering
cheap.
wheel mechanism device or.
That's gonna be the new trend now. We're gonna
But that's a surefire way to keep your car where it is.
Yeah.
And they're not going to take it. They can't drive it. So that's it.
Well, Matt, thanks for coming in. I feel enlightened. I'm still blown. I did not realize fleeing law enforcement in a vehicle was a felony. That's still, I don't know why I didn't know that or how I
that
didn't
changed
know
a few years ago. It wasn't always, but it did change a few years ago.
That like blowing my mind. Really good stuff. We might have to bring you back. Who knows if more of these trends will pop. Let's hope we don't have to bring you back, Matt.
Let's hope.
Hope not, but happy to be here.
If you have missed any previous episodes of Unholstered, you can download the Unholstered podcast anywhere you download a podcast. Your town, your team, your topics. This is Unholstered.
Thanks for listening to Unholstered. Be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Just search Unholstered.
Podcasts by Federated Media.